We want to thank you for tuning in today to our newest program, Talking It Out. In this newest segment, Pastor David and Lorraine will be discussing such topics as Bible prophecy, current events, and the Word of God. We trust each of you will enjoy today's edition of Talking It Out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking It Out. Today my dad and I are here talking about if there is a God, then why do we experience so much pain and suffering? This is a question that I think a lot of believers and non-believers ask. So we wanted to break it down and hopefully we can help you understand why sometimes we go through this. Being a human, I don't think we're ever going to fully understand, but hopefully these tips will help us see some light. We've broken this up into 3 segments, so let's jump back into this next segment.
But God, again, knows how He wired us.
Oh, yeah.
What we're able to handle, what we're not able to handle. I've seen people who just don't handle pressure well.
Yeah.
I was in one of my friend's front yard one day, and there was a pretty sharp curve there, and truck came around the curve and flipped over, rolled down the road, and a little 10-year-old girl got thrown out. And I just come back to the Lord. I was still working for the Freightliner Corporation. And I discerned in the accident there, trying to help, the dad that had the child was separated from his wife, and he was picking the daughter up, and then they had this terrible accident. Well, my friend's wife was a nurse. She ran out to the highway. She's in absolute hysterical. I mean, she's in hysteria. And I stopped her and I said, "Stop! You are a nurse.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to handle these things.
You have things here that can help."
Yeah.
This little girl in the road, and I almost felt like slapping her.
Yeah.
She was just all over the place.
Just to snap her out of it. Yeah.
And I said, she just seemed to couldn't get control. I said, "Then go in the house." This is years ago. We didn't have cell phones. I said, "Call 911. We got to get an ambulance here." And I thought the person that should have been the most able to help us was hysterical and couldn't help us.
Yeah.
Because she was magnifying the problem, the accident, more than she was magnifying what she was able to do. Whatever you magnify always gets bigger.
That's right.
If it's discord, you keep talking and talking. That problem, man, it started out a molehill, and now it's become a mountain.
Yeah.
Why? Because you keep adding dirt to a molehill, and it grows into a mountain. And so we need to be very, as James said, slow to speak, swift to hear, and slow to wrath. Be able to be involved in a situation, and that situation now not control you or manage you, but you manage to control it yourself. And there again, that's a type of a choice. But suffering, if God showed all of us the measure of suffering that we would have to endure in our lives, most people would get depressed and say, I give up. I'm done. And God cannot afford to show you all the hardships because of the pain, the suffering, and the sorrow. That's another thing I want to talk about. When man sinned, now sorrow entered into his life. Adam knew nothing about sorrow.
Right.
He knew nothing about physical pain. He knew nothing about emotional pain. He didn't know anything about sorrow. Genesis 3:17. And unto Adam Elohim said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. And sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Now man has an encounter for the rest of his life of sorrow. Adam had no understanding, no idea, no way of measuring anything about sorrow in his life.
That's right.
But what does he say now? And sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Let me paraphrase that for you. You'll have sorrow in your life till you die.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You can't get away from it. Again, you got to remember, what is the root cause? What created this? Sin.
Yeah.
Disobedience to God. Again, one commandment, do not eat of that tree. It wasn't 10 commandments, it wasn't 5.
Just one. And they couldn't follow it.
Yes. Boy, does that not show the fragility, the weakness of humanity?
I'm telling you, yeah.
You know, I know Adam was not like we are. He had a type of a glorified body in essence. I don't believe he had body odor or anything like that nature. But the point is, he didn't know anything about sorrow. Now God says, because you have sinned, that's all you're ever going to know all the days of your life are sorrow. Job said it like this in Job chapter 14, verses 1 and 2. Man that is born of woman is of a few days and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not. You've been out in the yard and you see a plain flower and you see the shadow and then all of a sudden it's gone.
It's gone, yeah.
It's just gone. That's how our lives are.
That's right.
It's just a shadow. James called it a vapor. Job called it a faster than a weaver shuttle, or as an ember, a spark that goes up from a bonfire. You see it?
So quick, yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
That's our lives. But the sad thing is, the whole time of our lives, for the most part, there's a lot of sorrow.
Yeah.
You know, we have good days, we have bad days. We have good times, we have bad times. But I don't see now as a Christian how people can keep putting off God.
Yeah.
You know, I put him off for a long time. He gave me an ultimatum. I came back. But, you know, the devil always wants people to believe, you've got so much to give up to serve God.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he wants you to do. Measure what you think you're having to give up to what you're going to get.
Exactly.
And
because this life is just temporary.
It's
and so what you do in this life doesn't really matter, because what matters is on the other side.
Yes, and this is why life is probation. You know, it's kind of a probation on this side.
That's right, yeah.
You got to get it right. You got to abide by God's rules, and then in the end, you will inherit eternal life.
Yeah.
But again, just because a person gives their life to Christ, that does not negate pain and suffering.
Oh, no,
I was reading in Acts chapter 5, verse 41 this morning, where the disciples, the apostles, rejoiced that they were counted worthy to suffer for his name's sake.
Yeah.
They were saying, praise God, we're suffering for Jesus. You know?
Seems kind of crazy, huh?
Well, I mean, people don't see it like that.
No, not at all. It's like,
but
why am I going through this?
Yeah.
You know, not yay.
They were. It's a badge of honor, the suffering.
Yeah.
And I thought about my own self. You know, could you endure what the apostles endured and say, I thank God I'm counted worthy?
Yeah.
You know, you know, when people gets chosen for a position, a promotion, or whatever, the boss man, you know, he makes that choice. And then there's always the other person that's over there. I should have got that.
Exactly.
That should have been me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm this, I'm that. Listen, the devil will keep all of us in a state of life that is a life of vanity.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why people, instead of facing reality, want to live in a vanity,
Right.
a vain.
That's actually one thing that the preacher was talking about Sunday. He was talking about how we always want a role. We want a special role. It's all about me. I deserve this. I deserve that. And then he was talking about how Jesus, when he came to the earth, he took on the form of a servant. He didn't want a title, you know. And then I forget who it was that asked him, "Are you a king?" And he says, "Yes, but
Pilate.
my kingdom is not of this
World.
Yeah, that's right.
Pilate. You know, I think that was a snare.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "Thou hast said."
Yeah.
You know, he didn't repeat it. He said, "You've said it," signifying it's true.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say
He could have
it.
easily said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm the king of this whole world. I hold your breath right now," you know. But he was like, he took on the form of a servant.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We want that special promotion. We want to be high in the rank.
So let's look at it. What happened when he said, "Now your whole life is going to be filled with sorrow." Again, nobody wants to embrace that, but I want to tie that into Romans chapter 8, verses 20 through 22. Even though creation itself did not sin, because God had given Adam dominion over the entirety of the earth, the fish of the sea, the fowls of the air, and the beasts of the field. He had dominion over that. Well, now because Adam has sinned, the curse came upon creation. Creation in itself did not sin, but because Adam had dominion, authority, lordship over all of this, he subjected creation to his sin. And so here in Romans 8, 20, 22, for the creature was made subject to vanity. The word vanity there, in essence, there means suffering and pain and sorrow. The creature was made subject. We are a creature, God made us, but also every other creature now is made subject to suffering, not willingly. See, the creation did not willingly submit to that or commit the sin, but Adam willfully sinned. And now he subjected the whole creation unto that. But by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope. That's kind of a profound statement. Who hath subjected the same in hope. What you see right there is a reference to Jesus, this other man that's going to come and going to restore all things.
Right.
And because he has come, now everything is subject to hope.
Exactly. The cure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man was hopeless. I know it don't say that there word for word, but you have to understand the phrase, by the reason of him. Who's that him now all of a sudden? Who has subjected the same in hope. Because Christ paid sin's debt, everything now can be brought back into his subjection.
Exactly.
And thus every man have hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from bondage of corruption and to the glorious liberty of the children of God. In other words, everything is going to receive redemption and restitution just like man has for his sins.
Exactly.
God, through Jesus, will accomplish that. Verse 22, for we know that the whole world, in other words, every creature, every creation in the earth, groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. Now, this may sound cynical, but I believe trees have emotions.
Yeah. I actually read something, it was in a newspaper, talking about how they give off this energy and stuff, and it said, hug a tree, you'll feel better. I was like, that's a bit much. That's crazy. But no, I mean, plants, I feel like don't kill plants. They're a living thing.
It's a proven fact. I read this 20 years ago, 25 years ago, probably now. A lady had flowers, and she put Beethoven and Bach, Mozart music on for this particular set of flowers, just like right here.
Right.
Then she took another set of flowers and she played heavy metal music. And over 90 days, you would not believe the appearance of those who heard the good music and those who heard the harsh music. Because they have life in them.
Yeah, exactly.
They bloom. They unfold.
Yeah.
Trees bloom and blossom, and then fall comes and the leaves die and they wither, but they come back next life.
Yeah.
So there's a living cycle.
Yeah, and actually during the winter months, what I understand is the roots actually continue growing, and then they come back and they bloom. That's when the roots actually start growing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That gives them the ability to survive the heat and the adversity in the summertime.
Yeah.
Because the roots in the wintertime are going this way. You don't see anything outward.
Exactly.
It's all inward.
Yep.
There's dark times, pain and suffering in our lives. We're supposed to grow in that.
That's right.
We're supposed to grow and learn from that. And so, as I said, I believe trees have life living in them.
Yeah.
But now, because of Adam's sin, Paul says the entirety of creation is subject to that. It's like the big fish eating the little fish.
Yeah.
Little fish is running around trying to get away from him. It all became cursed. Look at an innocent little lamb.
I know. A tiger comes or a lion comes and
mauls
kills
it, rips it, cuts it asunder. You say, why does God allow that? God is not doing that. God did not do that. The devil did that.
That's a cycle.
The devil did that. And Adam subjected not only us as humans, He subjected the entire creation. It was subjected because Adam had dominion over it.
Yeah, I know it's like some people, are vegetarians and stuff, but it's like we eat meat.
Yeah.
You don't have to, I guess, eat it to survive, but we eat meat. And I think that's why God put this stuff on the earth too for us. He
said, "I've given you before the fall."
Yeah.
He said, "I've given you every green herb for meat to eat." Man didn't eat meat before the fall.
Yeah.
Man lived off of, obviously, plants and nuts and vegetables and fruits and all of those things. But now we got the curse.
Yeah.
See, and even man's makeup, everything changed. His needs changed, of course. Everything about him changed. That's why he says your life now is going to be filled with sorrow.
Yeah.
Great sorrow because of your sin. So together we all groan. All of us groan together, no matter who we are, no matter what we are, no matter where we are. If you're a Christian, you suffer.
That's right.
If you're a sinner, you suffer.
Yeah.
The difference is the sinner says, I hate the suffering because this is not fair. The Christians should say, the suffering that I'm going through is not worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in me.
That's right.
Romans 8:18. So it's the perspective now. How does the sinner see it? How does the Christian see it? And we all have the woe is me, complex.
Yeah. Party.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going through what I'm going through.
Exactly.
I remember a grandmother was telling me about her granddaughter having a baby, and she made reference to the granddaughter. Nobody's ever suffered like this to have a baby. And her grandma says, how do you think the rest of us got here?
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I was pregnant, and I was scared about labor and everything. And Trey's like, but if you look at everybody in the world, everybody got here the same way. Everybody's, not everybody's been through this, but every woman, has been through this. So it's nothing new,
No. And of course, that pain and sorrow came because of the sin.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, I know this will intrigue. I don't say this to cause question relative to the Word of God, but Genesis 3:16, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. But look at what it says in the first phrase, Genesis 3:16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and in sorrow shalt thou bear your children. So, 1,000 times nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So did Eve have a measure of pain? Just a little bit of a twitch?
Right, like a little pinch.
Yeah, and so God multiplied that?
1,000 times, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
See, these are things that I cannot give you. Maybe some of you said that's inadequate. Maybe I can't give you an adequate answer.
Well, like I was saying at the very beginning, we're not going to know everything. We can read the Bible and look at some of these stories to help us understand why, but we're not going to know. We're not going to have all the answers.
True, because like I said, he said, I'm going to multiply your sorrow in conception and bringing forth children.
Yeah.
Some women, regrettably, cannot conceive.
That's right.
You had the fear as a child.
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did. I was always so scared that I wouldn't be able to have children, so that was one reason why my husband and I, when we got married, we didn't wait. And, fortunately, 2 months later, we were expecting.
Right.
But, it was a fear of mine, I think, just because I wanted children so bad,
Right. And, I remember you having that element of anxiety as a little girl that you're not going to have children. But that didn't happen. But then there are those who truly cannot have children.
Exactly.
I want to share this story about a couple in our church. She had cervic cancer. And they had to remove parts of her body that allowed her to not be able to bear children. But I had an evangelist in my church that was in the old building.
Yeah.
And he was standing beside of me. We're singing in worship on Sunday morning. He looks at me and he says, is there any couple in this church trying to have a baby? And I said, there sure is. And when I gave him the service, he had that unction. He went with it. And it was Rick and Debbie.
Yeah.
When wait a minute, she doesn't have a cervix. Uterus and
Ovaries.
Ovaries.
Yeah.
And probably no cervix as well. But anyway, she couldn't conceive. But he prophesied they were going to have a baby.
Wow.
And so here I am saying, okay, he's heard from God. This is genuine. But physically, anatomically, she's not able to have a baby. So how's this going to happen? And I felt like, man, you have put yourself, him, not me.
Yeah.
You put yourself in a precarious situation saying they're going to have a baby, but she's unable. But you know what happened in a matter of 90 days? This young 16-year-old girl that had gotten pregnant knew them, didn't want the baby, and gave them the baby.
So she didn't physically have the baby, but
she had a baby.
Wow.
A brand new day-old baby.
Wow.
This is the mysterious mystique of God.
Yeah.
Because I knew their situation. He asked, is there any couple in here trying to have a baby? And I said, well, yeah, but they can't. They won't.
Exactly.
One. And he prophesies, you're going to have a baby.
Yeah. Wow.
But it wasn't like they thought. They did get an infant child, brand new. Maybe that's a poor term, brand new baby.
Right, exactly.
But the newly born baby.
Yeah.
And God gave them that. They were so faithful and so loyal in church attendance and tithing and working and doing so many things in the church. And God rewarded them with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go through a place of sorrow.
Yeah.
But see, God can make it up.
Yeah.
In another way, another time, another place that you could have never imagined.
And actually, talking about that, I kind of have a praise report that I'd like to mention. But when I had my first daughter, I had complications, and I lost a lot of my cervix. So you're supposed to start out with about 5 or 6 centimeters of cervix. And after I had my daughter, I only had 1.8. And so before getting pregnant this time, they wanted me to come back and check things out, kind of see what we need to do before getting pregnant. Well, I didn't take those steps. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was really scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I lose this baby? Like, all these things were going through my head. And so my first appointment, I don't know, it was 6-8 weeks, and my cervix had grown to 2.8, so I had gained, a centimeter. So I was like, okay. They said, I still want you to see a high-risk doctor because you could still be, at risk for preterm labor. You're supposed to have 5 or 6. And so as the baby's growing, I'm seeing this high-risk doctor, and my cervix grew to 3.2, and then it was like 3.5, and I'm like, the baby's growing. They were worried of shortening, and my cervix is still growing. And I tell you what, this last appointment that I had with my high-risk doctor, she's looking, she's measuring, and I was like, well, what's it measuring? She's like, 5 centimeters. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So now I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I just feel like God gave me that reassurance. This was my last appointment, and I feel like he wanted me to be at ease, with the rest of this pregnancy, which, I'm still not out of the clear. Like, they are pushing a C-section and stuff like that. So the same thing doesn't happen again, but I'm still believing for a natural birth, but I just feel like he gave me that peace, this last appointment, and I hit 5 centimeters, and I'm like, this is I told the lady, I said, this doesn't even make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, and so, but, it's.
I know your liver can regenerate. That's the only organ I know that can.
Well, and they were telling me too, they said, the cervix is very dynamic, and it can change, and stuff like that. So, and she was telling me that it can grow some, but, to be back,
Yes.
at that 5.
That's 300% growth.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me, but.
Well, I'm praying for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
That it all goes well.
Absolutely.
Because God is in control.
That's right.
So now we see God says to Adam, great sorrow. Mm-hmm. You're going to have sorrow and great sorrow all the days of your life. So how would man be redeemed from that? Jesus.
Yeah.
Isaiah 53:3, he is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted or to know grief. Here again, Jesus did not suffer because of his life. He suffered because of our lives.
That's right.
Jesus did not live a life wherein he was worthy of sorrow, but he became acquainted with that sorrow that he might have a cure for that sorrow. Mm-hmm. Because God says, this is one of the most profound subject matters in trying to understand how that God brought the curse.
Yeah. But he also brought the cure.
God brought the cure. And that's the dichotomy of humanity trying to, who is God? Where is God? Why? You know, you're not quite there yet, but you'll get there. When, you know, you kids were growing up, you go through that stage. Why are you shaving? Why are you brushing your teeth?
Yeah.
Why you shampoo your hair?
Why everything?
Everything is why.
Yeah.
You know? And so each child has to go through that why. Well, as adults, you know, our why is, why, God, are you allowing this?
Exactly.
Why, just like the lady asked the question. You know, matter of fact, reread both those again.
So she said, if there is a God, then why is there so much suffering? Why do people have to go through hardship? But towards the end of her email, she said, should life be this hard when there is a God that can make everything good?
And that's the key. He did make a provision.
He did make, yeah, exactly.
And it's in part right now. This is what we call, when Paul used that in Ephesians 2, earnest inheritance, meaning a down payment. Salvation is just a down payment.
That's right.
Salvation is a down payment on the assured resurrection of the righteous. We don't get it all.
Right.
I've said many times, when we become born again, redeemed, my flesh is still the same old flesh.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm aging, growing older, hair turning grayer, etc., etc. But my inward man, the real person who I am, has been redeemed by the blood, been forgiven, been cleansed, and made whole.
And will live forever.
And that's just the down payment. Because in the resurrection, I'll get a new body, incorruptible, immortal. Can you imagine going around and say, hey, I'm immortal?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, cut me, you know, and you don't even, there's nothing there.
That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so this is just a down payment when we get born again, redeemed by the blood of Jesus Christ. So when she asks these questions, she needs to understand those are genuine, bona fide questions. It is a true reality, but God has made provision for redemption. Again, Jesus was acquainted with sorrow. Why? So he could understand and have empathy, true empathy, sympathy, and understand the entirety of mankind. There was a reason Christ was crucified on a tree, on a cross. Remember I said that creation was under the curse because Adam had dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowls of the air, the beast of the field, and over every living thing. But he sinned. So in Galatians 3:13, Paul said, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. Remember, I just said God gave the curse, God gave the cure. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. So Jesus was hung on a tree. He was hung on a cross. And he was hung there to pay sin's debt. There was no other way. Jesus himself asked the Father, if at all possible, let this cup pass from me. If there's another way, let's do it. If not, I will go this way, but I'd rather be freed from it. But nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. An often overlooked prophecy. When you read that in Galatians 3:13, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. Here's where this comes from. Deuteronomy 21, verses 22 and 23. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is cursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. So verse 21, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree. They went by Christ's body on the cross. He was already dead, so they didn't break his legs, which the psalmist prophesied that. They brought him down before the night and was buried, fulfilling this right here. But thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. That's exactly what they did. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, or cursed of God. So again, God cursed man because of his sin, but then God also made provision for the cure of the curse.
We want to thank you for tuning in today as we discuss current events from a biblical perspective. Please feel free to send us your questions. Who knows, your question may be the one they discuss on the next edition of Talking It Out. Please send your emails to talkingitout@thevoiceofelvangelism.com. Again, talkingitout@thevoiceofelvangelism.com. Or write us at Talking It Out, P.O. Box 502, Kaiser, North Carolina, 28020. Again, that's P.O. Box 502, Kaiser, North Carolina, 28020.